We are learning the morning. We're learning as Chus for Shlema Filan Chai Basarach. We're on Daf Samach Aleph Amid Aleph. We just saw the pretty long Mishnah, and then now we're going to see the Gemara. Tanrama. Hikriv Oisai L'Asham B'Esleig Hashem and V'Henif Oisam Knufa. The Torah says you should bring. This is talking about the Asham Mitzayra and the Loik Shemen of the Mitzayra. The Mishnah, we had given the list of things that require tnufa. They have to be waved, but they don't need hagasha. They don't have to be brought to the mizbech. So it says one of the things that's included is the loik shemen shemotzaira, the amount of shemen that you do, that you take for the mitzayra, and you put it. You do various sprinklings, and the asham, the carbon asham that's brought for the mitzayra. It also needs hanafa. The Torah says. That tells you they need tnufa together. How do we know? Now, it's interesting because tnufa is not ma'akiv, but the Mishnah says you yotzu your tnufa by doing them separately. I guess if you did them separately, you don't have to go ahead back and be mainif them together. Talmud Laim Asham v'Henif. Therefore, the Torah tells you Asham v'Henif. It says the Asham separately, then you should be mainif it. Yachol Yenif v'Yachsev Yenif. So I might think since the Torah says now Asham, the Asham should have hanaf, and it says that separately. Maybe you do each one separately. You do the Asham separately and the Loik Shemen separately. So the Torah says Lashon Yachad of Tnufa and not two separate hanafas. Mishnah had said, how do you do this Tnufa? You do it on the east side of the Mizbeach, which is the side further from the Heichel. And it means to say you can even do it on the eastern side. In fact, we had learned the Gabi the shvichas dam, when you have the shiarei dam by a carbon, you pour it out on the east side, and we said it says lifnei Hashem, and the Gemara says that could mean maybe that means only on the western side, closest to the Heichel. So why aren't we saying the same thing over here when it says lifnei Hashem? It also means bedavka on the western side. So the Gemara hani milin mincha de ikri chatas. That's when we're saying over there that the mincha has, that I would have thought it should be brought where you do the shvichas dam, because the mincha is called a chata. So therefore we compare it to a carbon that needs shvichas dam on the yesod. The chatas to the yesod, and the chatas has to be brought opposite the place. I mean, I really misstated this. I should say it really like this. The Gemara is saying like this, that the mincha, we say, it would be only on the western side. We're going to learn out that the mincha doesn't have to be on the western side, but I would have thought it does have to be on the western side. But why would I have thought it has to be on the western side? The pashas was that it's just because when it says L'nei Hashem, it means the west. So the Gemara says no. The reason is because the mincha is called a chatas, and a chatas needs shvichas dam on the yesod. But Karen drives harachas lehayla yesod. There was no Yesod on the eastern portion of the Mizbeach, on the southern port, which is where you do the Shvichas Dam. So therefore, since it has to be connected to Yesod, that's the reason I would have thought it has to be B'davka. It could even be on the western side. That's why I would have thought it has to be B'davka on the western side, because that's where the Yesod is. But over here, just as with L'nei Hashem, there's no cheshbon of where the chatas is brought, because there's no. We're talking over here about the asham and the loik shemen, so it just goes with lifnei Hashem, which could be even on the western side. Zok the Gemara, the Mishnah said weiter, bikurim that are brought to Yerushalayim from the new fruit. We say also needs shnufa. Kediv Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. We said according to Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. My Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. What does Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov say? This is Tanya. Lekach hakoyin. Torah says about the bikurim that the kayan will take it. Liman al bikurim shetu'un tenufa. That tells you that it needs tenufa. Divrei Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. My time. How do you see from it saying v'lakach hakayin that it needs to be waved? Gomer, sagt Gemara, Gomer yad yad mishlam. Tziv hacha v'locha hakayin hatena miyadecha. It says over here the kayin takes the basket from his hands. Gives miyadecha. Tziv hasam yadav tiviyana. That's about the shlamim, that his hand should bring it. Ma'kan kayin, aflalon kayin. Just like over there, the kayin is the one who does the bikur, and so too over here. I'm sorry, just like over here, meaning by the bikurim, it says it's the kayin who does it. So too over there, the kayin should do it. Malalom bailim, afkan bailim. Just like over there, the bailim by shlamim. The bailam does it, so too the owner has, the bailam have to, so too by shlamim, the bailam have to. So we're learning both directions. Haketz, so how is it done that you do both? The kohen puts his hand underneath the hand of the bailam and they wave together. So that's where, in any case, that's where we see a requirement of hanafa by bikurim. Why do you have to say it's like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov that he learns from this Gzeir Shava of Yad Yad? Let's learn out from Yehuda Tainer Yudaimer. Feinachta izu tnufa. The pasuk says, the pasuk va'ata hine heveses reishis priya adam asher sa'atal Hashem. This is talking about bikurim. You're bringing the first fruit that Hashem gave you. Feinachta lifnei Hashem. You're putting it lifnei Hashem alikecha. Ishtachavisa lifnei Hashem alikecha. And you should bow down. So the Gemara, the Gemara says, how do you know it means to wave it? It says hanacha, you should place it down. Where does he get to tenufa? So the Gemara, it already said hanacha. It says it says v'nicha. What is the second hanacha? Zutnufa. That's coming to tell you, according to Rabbi Yehuda, where we see tnufa. Amarav, ha'ilu pasach by akasav tchila. So why did we say the Mishnah say Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? It could be Rabbi Yehuda. Gemara says, so Rava says the reason is because since the first pasuk, the pasuk that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov learned from came before the pasuk that Rabbi Yehuda learned from, we say Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov's svara. Which Rashi says, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Rav Gavrei. So Rashi shu chacham b'yoser. He was a great chacham. The Kaimel Mishnah Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Kavanaki. We learned back in Eruvin about five years ago that the limudim, the Torah of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is not so many memories from him, but whatever he says is pure. It's unassailable. So therefore, we quote him as the reason. So Dr. Gemara, in the Mishnah we said that the emurim of a yachid's shlamim needs tenufa. Emurim are the fats that are burnt on the mizbeach. Because of a shaykh are the parts that go to the kohanim. You do a tenufa on them. That means after the shechita. Echad ha'anoshim. The Mishnah said, and this applies both to men and to women by the Yidden, but then it says Yisrael, which Yisrael means a male Yisrael, but not by others. So the Mishnah is contradictory. On the one hand, we say it applies both to men and to women. Then we say only to men and not to women, not by others. Both men and women, when they bring a carbon, it needs to be waved. But the bailim, when a man brings a carbon, he does the tenufa himself. By nashim, as we're going to see, the kayan does the tenufa for him. So in a sense, there is a tenufa by a carbon brought by a woman, but it's not done by her. So that's what the Mishnah means when it says avaloy ba'achem. There's a brisa that says the same thing. Bnei Yisrael can do hanafa, ve'ein avdei kechavim menifim. Avdei kechavim can't do tenufa. Bnei Yisrael menifim ve'ein anashim menifim. And Yidden, a man can A male Yisrael can do tenufa, but a nashim are not menifas. But it doesn't mean that they don't bring a carbon that needs tenufa. Amr Rabbi Yossi, Matzinu shechol lekasa ben carbon Yisrael lekarbon avdik echavim ula carbon nashim. The Torah is machalik between the carbon brought by a man, a male yid, and the carbon brought by a non-Jew, and the carbon brought by a woman. Besmicha. That you find that there's no smicha by avdik echavim and nashim. Yachal nachlik betnufa. Maybe I'll say the same chalik by a tenufa, just like there's no smicha by a carbon brought by avdik echavim and nashim. Maybe I'll say the same thing legabe the tenufa. Not like we just said that there is tenufa, but it's not done by the woman. But let's say like smicha, you don't do it at all. No one does this smicha by a carbon brought by avdik echavim and nashim. Maybe you don't do a tenufa at all. So come on, loy ma'alicha like besmicha asher smicha b'bailim nachlik betnuva shnuva b'kayenim. The Gemara says no, because by nashim we have an eitzah. By smicha, which is the leaning on the carbon, if it can't, it's not the only one who does it is the bailim. There's no smicha by kahanim, so the bailim can't do it, and it's not done at all. But tenufa, there is tenufa by kahanim, so we allow the kahanim. Let's let the kayan, which we see, like we said, by the kivsei atzeres and the shtei lechem, that both the bailim and the kayan does it. So over here also, when the bailim can't do it, we'll have the kayan do it. Imkain matam b'nei Yisrael. If so, what does it mean when it says b'nei Yisrael that only a male Jew can do the tenufa? B'nei Yisrael menifin ve'no avdik echad menifin. B'nei Yisrael menifin ve'no nashim menifin. It's saying that they can't actually, that the woman and the avdik echavim can't do the tenufa, but their carbon does have tenufa. Tanya idach b'nei Yisrael ein li ela b'nei Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael tells you only Bnei Yisrael, only a Jew in good standing. Ger mevavad mishchar minayin. How do we know a ger who brings the carbon? He does snufa, and avad mishchar and Eved Knani who was freed, so now he becomes also a full-fledged Jew. How do we know that they also do tnufa? Even though it says Bnei Yisrael, which might be mashma only someone with the yichus of Klal Yisrael. Tamalei maha makriv. Torah says hamakriv, which is mashma whoever is makriv, not just Bnei Yisrael. Let me see. I think they changed this girsa over here. They take out the word zeh. Maybe it's referring to the kohen that's makriv. It's not saying, meaning just like we said by the noshim that the kohen does it. Maybe hamakriv is telling you that they can't do it and someone else does it for them. Yadav Tiyana tells you it has to be the bailim that brings it. Okay, it's like Kain Merich Yadei Tachas Yidei Bailim Umeidlev. The Kain puts his hand underneath the hands of the bailim and he does the tnufa. So now we said that the Kain puts his hands and they lift the tnufa, the carbon, and they do tnufa. So now we're going to ask, like we said, there are two kinds of tnufas. There's by the the kivsei atzeres, the shtei lechem, you do tnufa while they're alive, and we also, I think, by the asham mitzayra. And then there's the tnufa that happens after it's shachat, and you wave the emurim and the chazav v'shaik, the fats that are burnt on the mizbech, which is the emurim, and the chazav v'shaik, which is the breast and the shank of the shlamim. That you wave that together with the emurim that goes to the kayin. That you wave together with the emurim that gets burnt on the mizbech. So now the Gemara is going to explain how you do that. He puts the emurim on the palm of his hand. The chazav v'shaik alein, and the chazav v'shaik goes on top of it. And if there's a third thing, if there's also bread, the lechem goes on top. Where do you have the lechem that goes on my Papa? By milum they brought chalas together with the chazav v'shaik and the emurim by the shlamim. So you put the lechem on top of it. My time. What's the reason for this? Why is that? Meaning the first part that we said that you put the emurim down and then you put the chazav v'shaik on top of it. It says you put the chazav v'shaik on top of the Ishe Chalavim, which are the Emurim, Yaviyu, that's how you should bring it. Lahan, if Tnufa has a Tnufa of Aksiv, or we have a pasuk that says the other way. It's a Chaylev al Chaza, Yivianu, it says you put the Chaylev, the Emurim, on top of the Chaza. Amar Abaya, Ahuda Maisel Chayim Beis HaMiftachayim. That part that we said that you put the Tnufa on top of the Chalavim, that's talking about after it's shechted. You have one Kayin who puts it, he puts it with the Emurim on top. He puts the chazal shek on bottom and the murim on top, and then he hands it over to the kind who's going to do the tnufa, the hanafa, and when he puts it in his hand, he flips it over. So then it ends up with the murim on bottom and the chazal shek on top. And he puts it in his hand. It says you put the fats on top of the chazal shek. So this is the second pasuk. So he said one is telling you that as it was brought to the kind of the hanafa, it was reversed in order so they could hand it into his hand. So what is the second time that it says it? So who do you have the kind of this is talking about after the tnufa, that kind then flips it over, because whenever you hand it over one kayin to another, it gets turned over. And that third kayin, when he brings it to the haktara, he's carrying it flipped over with the emurim on top. That's telling you need three kahanim. You split up the avodah with three kahanim. Instead of having one kahin, put it in the proper order from the beginning. You do it with three kahanim. It's better to do it with more people than with less. So therefore you have different kahanim necessitating that it be flipped over in between each one. The kayin should wave it on top of the lechem habikurim. I might say that the kifsei atzeres should be on top of the bread, as opposed to the other way around, like we said at the beginning of the Amud, that you put on the previous Amud that we say the lechem goes on top. You put it on top of the shnei kvasim, the lechem goes on top of them. Maybe the lechem goes on top of the kvasim. But the Torah says lechem habikurim, so it goes the other way, that the kvasim go on top of the bikurim. Nishtak ala kvasim. You have dueling psukim. One says that the lechem goes on top. One says the shtei lechem goes on top. One says the kipsei atzeres go on top. So we say, since we found in the previous Amud that we said that generally, like we said by Miluim, that the lechem goes on top. The Torah says specifically the lechem goes on top. So too by the kifsei atzeres and the shtei lechem, the lechem will go on top. Heicha, avkan lechem l'mayla. Heicha, where did we see them? Rapapa b'miluim, like we saw earlier by the Miluim. Rabbi Yossi ben Hamshulam on kvasim l'mayla. He says, no, the kvasim go on top. It's not. We don't do like we said before with the lechem on top, or rather the kvasim go on top. Amani mekayim al shnei kvasim. It says that that it should be on top of the shnei kvasim, which is mashma the lechem is on top. So lahaitzi shiva, that on the same day on Shavuos, in addition to the kifsei atzeres, there's two shalom of atzeres, there were the other shiva karbanos that were brought. So he's coming to say that it's this other 7 kvasim that are brought as musafim or oilus, and those, it's saying that those don't need lechem together with it. So it's not coming to say which goes on top, it's coming to say al shnei kvasim, meaning together with the shnei kvasim, not together, together with the 2 kvasim, the kivsei atzeres, and not with the shiva oilus that go on atzeres, which are not associated with the lechem. Chanina ben Chachinoya, memeniach shtei lechem ben yacheseim shel kvasim umenef. You put the shtei lechem, since it says both that the lechem should be on top of the kvasim, and it says the kvasim should be on top of the lechem, you put the lechem in between their thighs. Umenef, and you menef it like that. Nimsa mekayim shnei mikrois halalu lechem agabe kvasim, kvasim agabe lechem. Since it's between their thighs, one thigh is on top of the lechem, and the other thigh is on bottom. So you have lechem on top of the keves, and keves on top of the lechem. By the way, I'm going to tell you, I never came across whether you're doing the two kvasim together or one at a time. I have to assume it means one at a time. It sounds too, I think they just do one after the other. Amar Rabbi, l'fnei melech basar damei, no oisim kein, l'fnei melech machei amlacha, makadosh baruch hu, oisim kein. Rabbi disagrees. He says this is a very awkward way to do tnufa with bread in between the thighs of an animal. It seems disrespectful. If you wouldn't even do that in front of a regular mouth, certainly you can't do it on a carbon. If you just put one next to the other and you made them next to each other, because it says both have to be on top of the other. So there's no way to be Yetzer both. I had said that the lechem has to be on the kvasim have to be on the lechem. Rabbi L'tamei, Rabbi's going l'shitasu, Amar al besamach. He says when the Torah says al, it doesn't mean on top of, it just means next to it. The Tanya. It says by the lechem aponim, you should put levaina, pure levaina, and Rabbi Omer al besamach. He says when it says on sat al maracha that you put it on the seder of lechem aponim, it doesn't mean you put it literally on top of it. You put it next to it. Maybe it means you put the bezichin of levaina on top of the lechem hamish. He says since the Torah says you should put on the aron the paroiches. The paroiches we know is not on the aron; it's next to the aron. It's dividing between the kodesh kodashim and the heichel, and we call it al ha'aron. So what does al mean? It means next to the aron. So too over here by the lechem aponim by the levina means al means besamach, and therefore we'll go all the way back to the kifsei atzeres and the Shtei halechem, that it means besamach. So we described in the Mishnah what was the physical action of tnufa, of waving. So the Gemara says, he brings outward and inward, he waves it out and in, and he goes up and down. You go backwards and forwards, in and out, to show that you go to the Rebbeinu Shalom is the one who makes all four directions belong to him. To go up and down, to indicate the Rebbeinu Shalom. But Marava Masnu Hachi. This is the way they looked at it in the east, in the west, in Eretz Yisrael. Amrav Cham Baruch, Amrav Yesi B'Chanina. Melchu maybe you do in and out because lots of ruchos rois in order to keep away, to ward off the evil spirits. To keep away, I'm sorry, not evil spirits, to keep away bad winds that will ruin the harvest. To keep away bad dews and bad rains that will ruin the crops. You see from here that tnufa, which is not ma'akiv, it's from the lesser mitzvahs of the carbon. It's enough to keep away piranhas. You see the power of karbanos. The tnufa shiare mitzvah. Tnufa is only a shiare mitzvah. It's only a thought. It's not an essential mitzvah, but it's just ruchas rois. It's flying ram. It keeps away the bad winds and the bad dews. Amar Rabba v'chein lulav. The same thing with the lulav. Actually, if we do the lulav, the waving of the lulav is not ma'ak of the mitzvah. When you pick it up, you're yaitza. But we do the lulav. Waving the lulav is also going to keep away the bad ruchas and the bad dews. He picked it up and he took it, he pushed it away from him, and he brought it back to him. He picked it up and he showed everyone how he does it. He took the lulav and esrog and he waved it and he says it should be an arrow in the eye of the satan. It's not a good thing what he did. You should never say I'm mocking the satan and saying you take this, because the satan is very wily, and if you're going to get him, going, he's going to try to entice you. So best is to leave him lying and not start up with him. I guess Rabbi Yaakov felt confident he could do so. Tanarabban, Zivche Shalmetzina to Shalmetzibur to Urin Tnufa La'achashita, the Zvachim of Zivche Shalmetzibur, which is the Kivsei Atzeres, those are the only shlomim that are brought by the tzibur. They need tenufa, they need to be waived. La'achar shchita, after shchita. U'tnufasan k'moy shehein. And when you do tenufa on them, it's not like other tenufas that you do that after shchita, that you just do the chaz v'shoik together with the murim, like we said on the top of the yamid. But rather you take the entire animal and you do tenufa with it. Mishum da'asi, I'm sorry. Divrei Rebbe, he says you do the emurim with the chaz v'shoik, and that's it. You do it like every other shlomim, even though this is the Shalmei Tzibur, you do like a carbon yach. But my kamifli, what is the machlokes based on? Amalei Rav Chizda Rav Chanuna, V'amila Rav Nula Rav Chizda, B'dan mino, B'dan mino v'uki basa. But this is a general question. When you learn something out, do you apply the laws of the place that you're learning out from, which is dan mino, or b'dan mino v'uki basa, or do you learn it out? You learn out the law, but you apply the rules of the place that you're learning it to, not where you learned it from. Kamifli. Rabbanan savi dan mino. The Rabbanan say that you do only the chaz v'shoik on the zivchei shalmei tzibur. By the kivsei atzeres, when you do the tnufa after the shchita, you say you learn it out from you do the dinim of the place that you learned it out from. Ma zivchei shalmei yachid. You're learning out zivchei shalmei tzibur from shalmei yachid, and shalmei yachid tnufa la'achas shchita. They need after achas shchita. Av zivchei shalmei tzibur tnufa la'achas shchita. You're learning out zivchei shalmei tzibur from zivchei yachid. Umina, and you have the same rules as a yachid. Ma hasan b'chaz v'shoik. Just like by a yachid, shalmei yachid, it's b'chaz v'shoik. Avacha not b'chaz v'shoik. Rabbi Sava domina v'uki basa. No, he agrees you're learning it out from shalmei yachid, but even though you're learning out from shalmei yachid, you apply the rules of shalmei tzibur. Ma zivchei shalmei yachid tunin trufa la'achas shchita, av zivchei shalmei tzibur tunin trufa la'achas shchita. You learn it out from shalmei yachid v'uki basa, but you apply the rules of a zivchei shalmei tzibur of the kivsei atzeres. Hasamhu the chaz v'shoik. Only by shalmei yachid do you have a chaz v'shoik. Halcha k'moy shehein. But by shalmei tzibur, you apply the rules of the tzibur. K'moy shehein b'chayim. Just like they were done b'chayim, they were done with the entire animal before shchita. So too la'achas shchita. Rav Papa Amar the Kuli Amar Domino Mina. Rav Papa says no. Everyone agrees. You do the place that you learned it out from. If that's the case, l'chayra, it should only be the chaz v'shoik, not the entire animal, because you're learning that from shalmei yachid. So why? Behind the time of the Rebbe, so why does Rebbe say you do the whole animal? Ki hasam ma hasam davar shemas l'kayin shematan l'kayin av kacha davar shematan l'kayin. It says even though by a shalmei yachid you only do the chaz v'shoik, because the chaz v'shoik is the whole thing that's going to the kayin. But by the kivsei atzeres, the entire animal is going to the kayin. So you follow the rules of the place you're learning out from, and even though there was only the chaz v'shoik, the reason is because it's given to the kayin. And over here, what's given to the kayin is the entire animal. So you do tnufa on the entire animal. Ravina says the other way around. Everyone agrees you learn in the halachas of the place that you're learning it to. So why did the Rabbanan say it's only the chaz v'shoik? Shalmeim ribuyahu. The Torah says shalmeim. That's by shalmei yachid, I think. Because chazar tnuva shoyka truma lakachtim eis b'nei Yisrael mizivkei shalmeihem lashon rabim. So it's coming to say other shlamim also is only chadav shayk. So even though we'd say uki ba'asra, we have a pasuk that's marba that the shalmei tzibur also only the chadav shayk has tnufa. Okay, now we said we had the last part of the Mishnah where we had said there are three categories of karbanis, and each one, two out of the three things of smicha and tnufas chai and tnufas that you do smicha leaning on the animal, tnufas chai that you wave the animal while it's alive, and tnufas shchuta after the shchita. Two out of the three apply to all three things. And now the Gemara is going to quote the entire Mishnah, this whole chelik of the Mishnah, which goes for a while. There are three types that need three altogether. There are three things that are done with them. And each one of these three karbanis has two out of the three mitzvahs. The the zivchei shalmei tzibur v'asher mitzayra. These are the three karbanos. The zivchei shalmei yachid, which is this regular shlamim of a yachid. The zivchei shalmei tzibur, which is the kivsei atzeres, the two shlamim that are brought on Shavuos, v'asher mitzayra and asher mitzayra. And we said zivchei shalmei yachid tunin smicha chayim. It needs smicha while it's alive. The tnufa shchutin, and needs tenufa after the shchita, but it doesn't need ve'eba and tenufa chaim. It doesn't have tenufa while it's alive. Zivchei shalmei tzibur tenufa chaim. It needs a tenufa while it's alive. Ushchutin, it needs a tenufa also after shchita. Ve'eba and smicha, but it doesn't have it in smicha. Asher mitzayra ton smicha. It needs smicha. Tenufa is chai, and it needs to be waved while it's alive. Ve'eba tenufa shachat, but it doesn't have a tenufa after the shchita. So now the Gemara is asking all three of these things that they have two of the three. Why don't we learn out the third one from the other two? Second Mara is let's say the regular shlamim should need a tnufa also from umazev cheshalmei tzibur. If the shalmei tzibur she'ein tunin tzmicha, that don't need tzmicha chayim. I mean, tzmicha is only b'chayim, but that doesn't need tzmicha to unin tnufas chayim. It needs tnufa also alive. Ziv cheshalmei yachid she'ein tzmucha chayim she'ein tunin tzmicha chayim. A regular shlamim that does need tzmicha, ain't it? Didn't tunin tnufa chayim. It should certainly need tnufa while it's alive. So Gemara, mi Rachman gabi zivchei shalmei tzibur, oisam lemutei zivchei shalmei yachid. Oisam tells you only the zivchei shalmei tzibur has a tnufa chayim and not shalmei yachid. You zivchei shalmei tzibur. Now we move on to the next thing. You zivchei shalmei tzibur tunin smicha mikava chayim. Let's make a kava chayim. That's zivchei shalmei tzibur also needs smicha from a kava chayim. Uma zivchei shalmei yachid she'in tnufa chayim. They don't need the tnufa while they're alive. Tunin tzmicha, they need tzmicha. Zivchei shalmei tzibur she'tunin tnufas chayim, and it didn't she'tunin tzmicha. They certainly need tzmicha. Ravina gemiri shtei tzmichas b'tzibur. Gemiri shtei. We learned that there are only two things that need tzmicha, that they have a din tzmicha that are brought to the tzibur, and the zivchei shalmei tzibur are not amongst them. What are the two things? Rashi says, Gemiri misinai. It's a gamalach al meish misinai. Beis smichas b'tzibur paralim davar shel tzibur. Even though we just said it's a halacha ma'ishmisina, we bring psukim, I guess, to psukim are nasmach. And these are the only ones, and therefore shalmei tzibur is left out. Now the third thing, let's say an asher mitzayra should need a tnufa after the shchita mikal v'chayim, mazel shalmei yachid. If shalmei yachid ain't tnufa chayim, it doesn't have a tnufa chayim, tnufa shchut. Tunin tnufa shkut, and it needs a tnufa when it's shachat. Asher mitzayir shetan tnufa chai, ain't din shetan tnufa shachat. So Gemara miyat Rachman gabi zivchei shalmei yachid oisay lemutei asher mitzayir. That only the shalmei yachid needs a tnufa shachat, but not the asher mitzayir. Tan Rabban chamisha shehiviu carbon echad. If 5 people chipped in to bring a single carbon, echad meinif al yedei kulam. One does the hanafa for all of them. You can only have one person doing it. If more than one person will do it, it will be a chatzitza, so therefore he has to do it for the others. For Isha, Kaya meinaf al yad. And Isha who brings, like we said before, she can't do the tenufa. The Kaya does it for her. Same thing, someone who sends a carbon from a different place, he's not able to do it by Bailam, so the Kayan acts as a shliach to do the tenufa. Okay, we will stop over here. Yashar Kayach.